Chris Packham's warning, the hidden environmental cost of Britain's housing boom. Chris Packham, the celebrated naturalist and environmental campaigner, has issued a stark warning about the potential consequences of the UK government's ambitious house-building targets on the nation's countryside. His concerns center on the environmental degradation that could result from large-scale development projects, particularly those encroaching on greenfield sites, pristine, undeveloped areas that serve as vital ecosystems for wildlife and as carbon sinks. While acknowledging the urgency of addressing the housing crisis, Packham insists that poorly planned construction could have catastrophic and irreversible effects on biodiversity, natural habitats, and the overall ecological health of the UK's rural landscapes. The threat to the countryside and natural habitats. Packham's warning is rooted in the recognition of the countryside's critical role in preserving biodiversity and maintaining ecological balance. Greenfield sites, which are often rich in flora and fauna, provide vital habitats for a wide array of species. These areas also act as buffers against climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide, preventing soil erosion, and regulating local weather patterns. However, the government's housing strategy, which aims to build hundreds of thousands of homes annually, places greenfield sites under significant threat. If these plans proceed unchecked, the resulting urban sprawl could lead to the destruction of meadows, forests, and wetlands, leaving species without their natural habitats. This is particularly concerning for rare and endangered species already struggling due to climate change, pollution, and intensive agriculture. The interconnectedness of ecosystems means that disruptions to one habitat can have a cascading effect, ultimately threatening the stability of entire ecosystems. The case for brownfield development. A key solution proposed by Chris Packham is the prioritization of brownfield sites, land that has previously been developed but is now abandoned or underutilized. These sites, often found in urban or semi-urban areas, can be repurposed for housing without encroaching on natural landscapes. Brownfield development not only protects greenfield areas but also helps revitalize urban spaces and reduce pressure on rural areas. However, Packham emphasizes that brownfield redevelopment must be approached with care. These projects should adhere to rigorous sustainability standards, including the use of eco-friendly materials, incorporation of renewable energy sources, and designs that promote green living. Proper planning and investment are essential to overcome the challenges posed by contaminated or derelict brownfield sites, ensuring they become viable alternatives to building on greenfield land. The loss of biodiversity and escalating climate crisis. Packham's concerns extend beyond immediate habitat loss to the broader implications of biodiversity decline and climate change. The destruction of greenfield sites can fragment habitats, making it harder for wildlife to survive and reproduce. This is especially detrimental to species that rely on specific conditions found in rural environments, such as pollinators like bees, which are essential for agriculture and food production. Additionally, the urbanization of green spaces contributes to the climate crisis by increasing greenhouse gas emissions. Construction activities generate significant emissions, and replacing carbon-absorbing vegetation with concrete and asphalt exacerbates the problem. Packham warns that such developments are at odds with the UK's legally binding commitment to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. The need for sustainable housing development. Packham advocates for a paradigm shift in how housing development is approached. Rather than seeing economic growth and environmental protection as competing priorities, he argues for integrating sustainability into every stage of planning and construction. This includes designing housing projects that coexist harmoniously with their surroundings, incorporating green roofs, community gardens, and renewable energy systems to minimize their ecological footprint. Public participation and consultation with environmental experts are also crucial. Packham stresses that local communities should have a say in how their surroundings are developed, ensuring that decisions reflect the values and needs of the people who will be most affected. Furthermore, the inclusion of conservationists and ecologists in planning processes can help identify and mitigate potential environmental impacts before construction begins. Long-term consequences of poor planning. Packham's warning is not merely theoretical, it is grounded in real-world examples of the consequences of unchecked development. He points to cases where poorly planned projects have led to increased flooding, soil degradation, and loss of agricultural land, all of which exacerbate existing environmental challenges. Urban sprawl also places additional strain on infrastructure, such as transportation networks and water supplies, further compounding the negative effects on both humans and nature. The naturalist emphasizes that decisions made today will shape the future of the UK's landscapes for generations to come. He cautions against short-term thinking that prioritizes economic gains over environmental stewardship, highlighting that the cost of restoring damaged ecosystems often far exceeds the cost of protecting them in the first place. Balancing housing needs and environmental preservation, Packham acknowledges the pressing need for affordable housing, but insists that it should not come at the expense of the environment. He calls for innovative solutions that address housing shortages while safeguarding the natural world. One potential approach is the development of higher-density housing in urban areas, which reduces the need for sprawling developments in rural regions. Additionally, policies that encourage the retrofitting and repurposing of existing buildings can help meet housing demand without expanding into greenfield sites. Government policies must also reflect a commitment to environmental preservation. This includes stricter regulations on where and how housing can be built, incentives for developers to adopt sustainable practices, and investments in green infrastructure. By aligning housing targets with environmental goals, the UK can ensure that its development strategy is both economically and ecologically sustainable. A call to action for policymakers and the public. Chris Packham's message is as much a call to action for policymakers as it is for the public. He urges the government to reconsider its approach to house building and to place environmental considerations at the heart of its strategy. At the same time, he calls on citizens to advocate for responsible development, emphasizing that public pressure can influence decision-making and drive positive change. Packham's warning also serves as a reminder of the broader challenges facing society in the 21st century. The housing crisis, climate change, and biodiversity loss are interconnected issues that require holistic solutions. By addressing these challenges in an integrated manner, the UK has the opportunity to lead the way in creating a sustainable and equitable future. Chris Packham's impassioned plea highlights the delicate balance between meeting human needs and preserving the natural world. While the housing crisis is an urgent